Hello everyone, how are you? I hope you're all doing great and that you have lots of energy because today we're going to continue with the second video of unit number 12. In this unit, or in this lesson particularly, we're going to talk about health, home remedies, and we're going to learn about two ways of giving advice. Alright? So let's start. Here I have some questions for you. It says, what do you do in this situation? So here we have four different situations in which your health might be compromised. So the first one says, you've got a toothache. Remember, pronunciation is toothache. So you've got a toothache. What do you do? Do you take a day of work? Do you see a doctor or a dentist? Probably, right? Do you take some medicine or maybe go to a pharmacy? Do you ask someone for advice? Do nothing or do something else. Try to think about what do you do in this situation. Now, if you feel tired and you have no energy, do you see a doctor? Probably not, right? Maybe you do nothing, right? Or ask someone for advice. Or maybe if you're really, really tired, you can take a day of work or of university. Now, if you got temperature, maybe you take some medicine that you have at home or go to a pharmacy, right? Probably if you have nowadays, if you have high levels of temperature, you probably go to a medical center, right? To see a doctor. And the last one says, if you got a really bad pain in your back and you don't know why. So in this case, I would probably advise you to go and see a doctor, right? Now let's see. Here we have some home remedies, right? Some common home remedies. Now, home remedy culture is something very popular among people, right? And especially among Chileans, I think. Our grandmas or parents or grandparents or whatever, right? They usually have some tricks, right? Of home remedies that can help us to heal certain aches. Now, here we have four home remedies: black toasts with honey, an onion, a wet tea bag, and salt water. And here we have four different health problems. Headache, remember pronunciation is not headache, it's headache, right? Ache, toothache, a high temperature, and stomachache. Stomachache can go together or as two words in this case, right? There's not much difference. Now, can you match the problems with the home remedies? He says maybe onions can help stomachache. Do you think so? I'm not sure. Maybe salt water for a toothache? Now let's check your ideas. So you're going to read this article about the home remedies and you're going to find out if you were correct or not. All right, so pause the video now and read the article. Are you ready? So let's see. First, we have the black toast with honey, and this is helpful for stomach aches, right? Then we have an onion. An onion is helpful if you have high temperature. Of course, you don't have to eat the onion, right? But you have to put them on your feet. I've heard that onions, like if you keep the half of an onion on your bed table, right, your side table, beside your bed, that helps you to heal from your colds, right? Maybe fever, probably. Then we have a wet tea bag that is helpful for toothache. You put a wet and cold tea bag on your tooth, and then that is going to help you to have less of a pain, right? And then finally we have salt water, which is helpful for headaches, right? But you don't have to drink it. You have to put a few drops in your ears. So now you know that if you have some of these problems, you can try these remedies and tell me if they work or not. So what do you think of these home remedies? Would you like to try them? Have you tried any of this? Do you know any other remedies that we can use for common health problems? I've heard that potatoes are good for temperature, I think, if you put them on your forehead. Something like that. Maybe I'm making that up. I'm not sure. So let's continue. Now we're going to be talking about how to give advice when someone has a health problem. So here we have two ways that we're going to use. The idea is for you to complete these gaps with the words from the postings, right? So we have the word socks, tea bag, water, feet, and garlic. So please complete the sentences. Now let's check. So here we have, you should take a garlic clove and put it on the tooth. Put a wet tea bag, right, on the sore tooth. So you have two options, right? Don't use really hot water. You shouldn't wear socks, of course. Which way here? Just bare feet. So now we have the advices completed. Now, for each case, we're going to have two options. The first sentence says, take a garlic clove and put it on the tooth. Take a garlic clove and put it on the tooth. And then the second one says, don't use really hot water. So we have advices in positive of the things that you should do, and then we have advices in negative, the things that you don't have to do. So this first part is called imperative mode, right? That's the name. The imperative mode is when you give a command to someone mentioning what that person has to do. So we're giving instructions. This is a direct way of giving advice. Yes? In Spanish would be something like toma un ajo. Toma un I'm sorry, I forgot that. You don't say clavo de ajo. Diente. Diente de ajo? Yes. I'm so sorry. So you say, toma un diente de ajo y ponlo en el diente. Right? This is a direct instructions. And on the other hand, we have no uses tal y tal cosa. No uses agua que esté muy caliente. Right? Now, imperative mode, direct. We don't use subjects. I don't say, you take a garlic clove. Right? Commonly in English, we don't start sentences with verbs, we start with subjects. We say, you take a garlic clove. But when we talk about the imperative mode, this is so direct, right, that you have to only use the verb. Take, use, don't take. And on the other hand, we have the very common word should, right? So this is the same, right, but it's a more soft advice. So we say, you should put a wet tea bag on the sore throat, or you shouldn't wear socks, of course, just bare feet. So both are correct, but the structure is what changes. So in the second case, we have subject, modal, and then verb. Yes? So if we delete this, right? If we delete this like that, yes, and we say put a wet tea bag on the sore tooth, we have a imperative mode, right? So both of them are correct, as you can see. Now, what I want you to do is to think of an advice for each of these problems. We're going to be talking about this in our next online session. So you're going to be sharing with me your advices, right? So for example, imagine that you have a friend with high temperature and try to write two different pieces of advice using you should and using the imperative mode as well. So for example, let's see, if you have a high temperature, you should put an onion on the bottom of your feet, or put an onion on the bottom of your feet. If you have a headache, pour some salt water on your ear. For stomachache, you can say don't eat too much food. That's imperative, right? Or you can also say you shouldn't eat too much food. For a backache, a pain in your back, right? A backache, you can advise someone and say don't lift heavy objects or don't do exercise, maybe. And for a toothache, you can say go and see a doctor, or you should go and see a doctor, a dentist, right? We're going to be sharing this then together when we see each other at the meeting. Now, this is for advice, but sometimes we want to make entire sentences using the problem and the advice. So we're going to be starting to learn about if clauses, how to give advice using if clauses. So look at the if sentences in the table, then put the words of this sentence in order and add it to the box. So let's see the box first. We have if, present simple, comma, important, comma, and imperative. So this is one way of giving advice. You can say, if you get stomachache, comma, try this remedy. See? Imperative. Try this remedy, and then we have the if clause with the problem here, right? It's not necessary that you use the problem in the first part of the sentence. You can use it whatever you want, right? If the second example says, if you try the salt water remedy, don't use really hot water. So you have to pay attention here that in both cases, we're using a verb in the present simple, an if clause, then we have the subject. That can be she, he. For example, if your brother gets stomachache, try this remedy. There's no problem with that. And then we have the comma, which is very important, and then the imperative mode. All right? Then, in the second example, we're going to use should and shouldn't. So we have if, present simple again, comma, and then should, shouldn't, and the infinitive. So if they, let's see how the subject changes. If they don't work for you, comma, you should go to a dentist. If, present simple, if they don't work for you, it doesn't have to be positive, it can be negative as well. If they don't work, like the remedies don't work, right? Comma, you should go to a dentist. See? And then in the last example, we can see how we can change the order of sentences, right? And what happens when we change the order. So if we have the if clause at the beginning, we have if, present simple, comma, and then should, shouldn't, or the imperative in this case. But if you want to put the if clause second, you're not going to include the comma. If, present simple, comma, and advice. Here we have advice and then if, present simple. No comma. There's no need to add a comma there, right? So if you write it, that's incorrect. No comma. See? So now we have the sentence here, right? So put it in order and try to classify it into one of these three categories. So the sentence should be the following. We have a comma, so we know that we are starting with if. So we say, if you, subject, right? If you get a temperature, comma, use an onion. Yes? So that's imperative or should? Imperative, right? So we're going to classify it here. See? If you want to change the order, we can say use an onion if you get, a temperature. And both of them are correct. Now let's see more examples. Match the problems 1 to 6 with the advice. There's more than one correct answer, right? So think carefully, pause the video now, and try to find all the possibilities you can use in each case. All right? Are you ready? So let's see. Number 1 says, you've got a very bad cold, and we can join that with letter C, right? The advice would be, don't go to work, don't go for a run, and you should go to bed early. These are the 3 advices we can use for number 1. C, D, and F. C, D, F. You are allergic to paracetamol. The correct advice would be letter B. Be careful what medicine you take. Be careful, right? So you have to pay attention to the ingredients and see if that has paracetamol in it. And if it does, don't take it, of course. Number 3 says, your feet hurt. Don't go for a run, right, if your feet hurt. And you can also put them in hot water with mustard. That's another home remedy. You've got stomachache. What's the advice? You've got stomachache. You shouldn't eat a large meal, right? And maybe don't go for a run, probably. Yes, because that can, I don't know, mess your stomach. Number 5, you feel very tired. If you feel very tired, probably don't go for a run, and you should go to bed early, right? So if you're tired, go to bed early. Try not to avoid going to work. That's a responsibility, right? Now, number 6, if you got a problem with your knee, don't go for a run. So probably the best advice is that when you are sick, please don't go for a run. Now, say the sentences using if. Try to mix both parts, right, by using an if clause. So I'm going to read them with you. Try to check if you have them correct. You can pause the video, write them down if you want, and then you can check. All right? So number 1 would be, if you've got a very bad cold, comma, don't go to work. If you've got a very bad cold, comma, don't go for a run, right? If you are allergic to paracetamol, comma, be careful what medicine you take. This is imperative. And as you see, the verb comes in its infinitive form. Yes? There's no conjugation of the verb. So I'm not going to say are careful. Are careful because I'm talking about you. No. We say be, right? The standard form of the verb. If your feet hurt, put them comma, I'm sorry, put them in hot water with mustard. If you've got a stomachache, comma, you shouldn't eat a large meal. If you feel very tired, comma, you should go to bed early. And if you got a problem with your knee, comma, again, don't go for a run. You might be thinking that I'm exaggerating with the commas, right? But it is very important for you to consider that. Now, we're going to go to page 140 to do some more exercises. Here we have it. So then we have again the explanation, right? You can use if sentences to give advice. The example with a comma, right? And the two ways. You can use imperatives and should plus infinite. Yes, in imperative we also use the infinite form. Yes, of present simple as well for negatives. You can change the order. When the if part sentence is first, put a comma between the two parts, and if you change the order, there's no comma. For pronunciation, you usually stress the words if, don't, and shouldn't. So we say, if you have a temperature, don't go to work. If you have a cold, you shouldn't go to work. If you pay attention, we never stress subjects or articles, right, or prepositions. Now, the exercise, match the beginning 1 to 8 with the ending of the sentences. Yeah, so here we have complete sentences. The where? It's the same, right? So pause the video now and match the half sentences because we're going to check now. Are you ready? Okay, so let's see. Number 1 says, if your TV doesn't work, call the repairman. Number 2, you should exercise more if you want to be fitter or in shape. That's the same meaning. Then we have 3, don't forget to take an umbrella if it rains. 4, if you want a new job, check the adverts in the newspaper. 5, check a dictionary if you want to know the meaning of a word. If you feel stressed, you should go for a walk and try to relax. If you want to see him, give him a call. And you shouldn't go to the gym if you have a backache. Now pay attention. In all the cases we use a comma, right? Like this one, and this one, right? These are the ones that start with if. Yes, so all sentences that start with if at the beginning, we're going to use a comma in between, right? The other ones here we have should. This is imperative, right? Imperative, and then should again. So try to pay attention to those cases. Now, the last exercise is add the words in brackets to the sentences, add capital letters and punctuation. So pay attention to the use of commas and capital letters, right? Or uppercase. There you have the words like in the example says, go and see the dentist if you have a toothache. Pause the video now and do the rest. Are you ready? So let's check. I'm going to be typing the answers for you. So number 2 would be if you want some fruit, comma, you should go to the shop, right? Number 3, capital letter, don't eat food with lots of salt if you want to be healthy. And then we have no commas, right? 4, if, capital letter, if I'm sorry, the other way around. You shouldn't eat a lot late at night if you want to sleep well. 5, if you go out, don't forget your keys. 6, if you should go to bed early if you feel tired, with a comma. Take these tablets if you have a headache. And 8 would be you should check the internet if you want travel information. So again, pay attention that when we have the if at the beginning, we use a comma, right? And in the other cases, we don't use commas at all, right? If you go out, comma, and we can change the order and it doesn't matter. All right, so let's go back to the page we were before for the final exercise. Now we're going to do a short listening, and this is for you to reflect a bit and to learn about different home remedies. So we're going to listen to Amina from Lebanon, Angerd and Natalie from Switzerland, and Ruth from England talk about their own remedies for a cold. Take the remedies they talk about, right? So a cold is one of the most common health problems that people face all over the world, right? And people have a lot of different tricks, so hopefully you can learn some and maybe try them and let me know if they help or not. So let's listen.
Track 34.
If I have a cold, I usually take medicine like aspirin, or I put my head over a hot bowl with hot water and inhale the steam.
Really? My grandmother do that, but I think I don't really do that. When I've got a cold, I either go to the doctor or I just try and ignore it and just get on with my normal work.
My grandmother told me that if you drink hot honey and lemon juice, it's the best cure for a cold. But I'm not sure if that's true. I prefer paracetamol.
Yes, me too. But my mother always tells me to drink black tea with honey too, and to eat soup, because you're not very hungry when you have a cold.
My mum always makes chicken soup when I've got a cold. It's the best thing.
Okay, so what are the remedies they talked about? Do we talk about eat oranges? No, right? Drink black tea with honey? Yes. Take paracetamol? Yes. Eat chicken soup because you're not very hungry, so you have to eat something. Drink hot honey and lemon juice. That's a very common one, right? Get on with work. So keep going and just ignore it. Maybe go to the doctor and then inhale the steam from hot water. All of them are mentioned. Now, what are the ones that you use? Now, in the next lesson, we're going to be discussing these 3 questions. So, what do you think of these remedies? What do you do when you have a cold? What about people you know? what's the most popular remedy and what's the most unusual remedy for you. So keep that in mind and get prepare your answers, because we're going to be discussing all about home remedies in the next lesson. So that is the end for today. Remember that if you have any questions, don't forget you can contact me at my email. And that is it. So take care. Bye bye.